Welcome back to the podcast today. I'm so excited. So this is someone I have followed on LinkedIn at least a year, probably longer. And I'm just so excited that we finally got to connect. We've like shared some DMs, posted, comments on each other's LinkedIn posts, and it's just so great to finally meet you. So today I have Dianna Mason Horacek. She is the founder of Acadia Content Solutions, and she's an expert legal content writer.
Welcome to your Profitable Law Firm podcast. I'm Kelly Brubaker, your dedicated host, passionate about empowering law firm owners. Let's dive into the hidden strategies that lead to overflowing profits, scaled growth, and thriving lives. This is where overwhelm transforms into confidence, enabling you to create and enjoy your dream firm and your dream life.
And I'm just so excited that you're here. Dianna, can you share with my audience, a little bit about your company and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me here. So what I do with Acadia Content Solutions is I write content for law firm websites. So usually I'm working with small law firms and solo attorneys. And usually the solo attorneys are my favorite to work with because you guys really understand like the importance of your social presence and having a website. But they don't have the same type of budget that large law firms have or like big law has. They don't have $50,000 a month to spend. And so it's nice to work with, smaller law firms and solo attorneys because we can work together one-on-one instead of having to work together with an agency. So
Yeah, and I love that. I find it hard. I know at one point, way back in the beginning when I started my firm, I had worked with an agency and it was just a struggle for me. I was always getting passed along to different people and I felt like the content was just like meh,
yeah.
like it wasn't very me. And so I struggle with that a lot. And so no, so I love what you're doing for the industry. So what's one thing that you often see that law firms are getting wrong with their content?
Oh, they try to talk. That's such a good question. They just talk like they're talking to one of their colleagues. That's the biggest mistake is they're talking to, they think they write the content like they're talking to somebody who knows it the same way that they do. And the truth is that people who are going through major legal issues, one, don't have the emotional capacity to be like paying that close of attention. And two, they're reading at an eighth grade level. And that's even with some of the practice areas like white collar crime and stuff. Like even then, we still need to be writing content in a way that literally a child would be able to understand and figure out what their next steps are going to be. So I would say that's their biggest mistake. But I have a follow-up one if you have time.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
So the second one I would say is definitely like blindly trusting their agencies is just like turning over, like give them $20,000 in the month and just say, do with that, make it happen. But then they don't follow up and check in and find out what all that covers, making sure they're getting their deliverables, making sure that the work is not just being done, it's being done well, right? Like don't accept the bare minimum. Like you deserve somebody who's going to be going above and beyond for you just because you're working together, not because you're paying the most money, not because you're the most reputable law firm, not because you have the biggest name, just because you're somebody who took the time to hire them. Like, so I don't know. That's just something that I feel like really passionate about.
No, and I agree. I mean, and it's interesting that you mentioned the point about the eighth grade reading level. So something a couple years ago, I was, watching some video on YouTube and I think it was Alex Hermosi, but it could have been somebody different. And that mentioned about the reading level. And I'm like, oh my God, I never considered that. So I'll sit down and draft something and then I'll copy it into Chat GPT and I'll say, what is the grade level of the
Yeah.
reading, it. And so my goal is try to get to a seventh grade reading level. I don't want to talk down to people. And I feel horrible. I'm like, to write at a seventh grade reading level, but understand and not have to struggle thinking very difficult. I don't want people to
Right.
think through what I'm saying. I want them to just read it and understand it. So that's a great point too, is
And it takes
the reading
practice.
level and stuff.
It
No,
does. When it
absolutely.
first started, I just was a strong writer. And so I think I remember, so program back back in the day, they had, like, Readable was around back in 2016. I don't know if it's still around, but that was when I first got into it, and, back then we would plug our pages into Readable to find out what level your writing was, and my writing was at, like, a 17th grade level, so we're talking, like, well into college, which is, makes sense, but at the same time, like, that was not going to convert with readers at all, and so it took a lot of practice to be able to write in a way that you're just talking with someone. And so one of the ways that I try to do that is I dictate a lot of my content. So I'm just talking like to my phone,
Yeah.
like, and not really to my phone either. I'm talking to my phone, yes, because I'm dictating, but it's really like I'm just talking to someone else and trying to explain to them what I think they need to know based on whatever it is I'm writing about. And so I think that
Oh,
helps.
absolutely.
Or
Yeah. No, and that's good. Yeah. I struggled. For the longest time, I wanted to journal and just struggled with sitting down and like actually handwriting out a journal. And I got to the point now where my journal's in Chat GPT. So every night at 8 o'clock, I have a little alarm that goes off and I'm like, time to do my journal. And I'll just do the talk text and I just like rattle off like this happened today and I'm struggling with this and I need to remember to do this tomorrow. And then, I can ramble on for 10 minutes and then it comes back and just gives me these two paragraphs.
here's what I
So
can
I
do.
understand. Yeah. Don't forget to do this. I can remind you tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it just helps me, just organize my thoughts. And I'm like, oh, that's much better than me sitting there handwriting out and then crossing off and erasing.
Yes, no, I love that. There are so many good uses for ChatGPT, just, not legal content for your website.
Yeah. I love AI, but I use it for things. I probably use it more for personal than I do for business. Like personal, I have a split rail fence in my front yard and I want it to come out because it's old, the rails are starting to fall apart. But I'd rather put pine trees. I know not like I do not have a green thumb. So I'm like, Chat GPT, tell me, how do I want to pull this fence out? What would be the best if I want privacy? In this, I live in Akron, Ohio. So, my temperature, what's the best time of year to plant? What are the best trees
Right.
that grows the fastest? And it came back and was like, these are the three different types of trees you should purchase. These are the cheapest, these are the most expensive, but they grow fast. There's privacy. I'm like,
Honestly,
oh,
so helpful. I did the same, but with my PMDD, because over the summer, my symptoms like really flared up
oh,
so bad and became very debilitating, which had to happen in like 5 years. So,
yeah.
and doctors, I tried to see a doctor, and he was like a PMDD specialist, and their solution was like, let me put you on an SSRI. And like, that's
Really?
well, I mean, it's not even
Right.
like I would have been against that. If it would have helped, I would have, but that's not the solution for my condition.
Right.
So then I got into ChatGPT and I was like, I just told it everything. I'm like, look,
Yeah.
like, help me figure this out because I can't figure this out. The doctors are useless right now. Like, please help me. And it
Right.
helped. It helped
Right.
to help me figure out a vitamin protocol that I could take, and my symptoms
Oh,
have
that's
gone
awesome.
since. So I think
Yeah.
ChatGPT is wonderful for personal things, but
Oh, absolutely.
we run into
Absolutely.
some legal ground too. I'm writing a lot more AI liability pages these days as well.
Ooh, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, but yeah, let's.
So what
So,
would that even look like? What would that look like?
so most often, what I'm seeing is I have two clients right now that are really going heavy on going after AI liability. So we're writing landing pages for multiple locations focused on AI liability, and what we mean by that is mostly uh children who are using ChatGPT,
Yeah.
and it is making suggest I don't know what we can say and what we're not allowed to say. It is having
Heading.
yeah, yeah. So they're encouraging the kids to engage in self-harm behaviors.
Yeah.
And not only are they like encouraging them, but they're giving them different ways to do it and how to avoid being caught. And it's like there should
Yeah,
be
there needs to be
absolutely.
limits on that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a problem. And then, there's a question of who is responsible at that point. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the time AI and the LLMs are blaming parents for letting their kids access these programs. And
Right.
it's like, that is not like, I mean, at my own personal bias will come in, but usually when we're writing these pages, we're blaming the LLMs. So
Right.
if you were to
Yeah,
be,
I mean, it's cool, but it seriously, if it's going to head you down a really bad path, I mean, they can fix that, right?
yes,
Um, yeah, I mean, I know for like I'm a parent, and I have two teens and 14 and 17 right now, and they hate AI, detest
really,
AI. Oh, absolutely. Anytime, like so my oldest is a senior in high school. She's getting ready, or she just wrapped up applying to like 10,000 colleges. And as she was doing her essays, she would ask me questions. Should I talk about this? Should I talk about that? I don't think I want to talk about this, or how can I explain this better? And I'm like, well, why don't you ask ChatGPT what it thinks? What would be appropriate topics? I said, I'm not asking you to have it spit out your entrance or your application notes or whatever. But she's like, absolutely not. And I'm like, oh, but yeah, we're both my girls very, very opposed. Do not
that's
let
nice.
anything do with why they don't. It thinks for you. It does like, and I'm like, okay, we will not suggest this ever again. But girls, I will tell you. So we're going. They both are in the marching band. They do color guard, and our band got invited to march at Disney World, the main day parade, or the midday parade. We go in January, and I'm like, I know that there's a travel agent. There's like 150 people going because it's the band and the choir gets to sing as well. And I'm like, now, even though we have a travel agent that has an itinerary, I am obsessed with Megatron. So I'm like, I need to figure out how to get to see Megatron. Because I'm already like, ChatGPT, here's my itinerary. I want to get over to see Megatron. How do I, like, where in my
Right,
schedule? Can I slip out somewhere? Because I'm
right,
going as a phone.
seriously.
I'm like, how do I do? And my girls are looking at me like I have three eyes.
Honestly, I think it depends, really. Like, if you feel like you don't need a little bit of help to brainstorm, then don't do it. If you feel like you need,
Absolutely.
I absolutely sometimes need someone, especially with business stuff, because I'm a single. I'm not single. I mean, I'm married. But I'm a single business woman.
Right.
Like run my
Right.
business by myself. And so if I have like a great idea or an idea that I think might be great or like, but I don't want to embarrass myself, I'm like, what do you think of this? Or I'll be like, do you think this is embarrassing? Or like, or for me, I'll be like, you are a lawyer who is potentially going to hire me. Like, what would you think of this? And then
Right.
so those are all really great uses.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of my favorite is role
Accident.
playing. Well, right, right. I mean, I'll do role play if I have to deliver bad news to somebody, whether it's a client or personal, whatever it is. I'm horrible with like stressful conversations.
Me too.
And so I will I will go to ChatGPT. I need to talk to this person. This is the relationship. I have to tell them bad news. I don't think it's going to be well received. What would be the best way to say this? Or
Love
give
that.
me five different ways to explain. And then it helps me because I'm like, I just need to be prepared. And really the worst part, it's not how I'm going to say something that I'm fearful of. It's how I'm going to respond to the reaction.
Right.
And so I'm like, how would people react to this? And that, give me 10 different reactions so that I can better prepare and
Right.
just do role play back and forth.
Right.
And then I feel so much better. And, the conversations usually end up going decent. I don't want to say they're all great, but much better. Like I will have sleepless nights because I'm just so worked up about, oh my God,
I'm
and
glad it's
whatever
not
it
good.
is. So yeah, so there's definitely the really good things about, AI, and I like where it's heading. But then last week, I I pulled up on Amazon Prime War Games from 1983, and I don't know if you've seen it. It was like Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy, and
No.
definitely early 80s where so this computer thinks that so Matthew Broderick's character's a kid in high school. He hacks into this military computer system
Oh gosh.
and starts to play games. And of course, it lists out these games that are like chess and like tic-tac-toe, things like that. But he picks the one that's global thermal nuclear war.
Oh my gosh.
The computer thinks it's real. And so now this military base is going into lockdown because they're all their screens, it's just like in Apollo 13 where they have all Houston has all the big screens all over the wall. And they're like, oh my God, Russia's attacking us. It's all computer. Like the computer is playing
Worst
and it's
case scenario.
yes. And it's saying, well, if Russia does this, how do we attack? And then it just keeps running through these scenarios. And I'm watching this and I'm like, now I've seen this movie probably 20 times in my lifetime. I'm 52. Like I've seen it a lot. And so, but I'm like, oh my God, it never occurred to me that was what we thought AI was
Right.
back, 30 years ago. And so I'm glad we're not there yet. I hope we don't
Right.
have AI
It's scary to think
Great.
about that it could be there. Some of it
Right.
is scary what it is doing though, like with the AI liability stuff, like
Yeah.
the fact that it generated any type of content like that at all as a response is concerning.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
some serious concerns, not, and that's just with using it, not even about using it for content,
Right. Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, and I agree. I've read some of the news articles and it's definitely appalling as a human to think, oh my gosh, somebody's relying on this to help. And that's not help. Like that,
Right.
like there needs to be something installed that kind of stop as a buffer that kind of just stops and says, you hit the end of the wall. Like weren't we fearful at one point we'd hit the end of the internet? Like we need to put that wall in.
Well, it's like if we have on social media, I know like I could not use, I don't even know what expression. I was going to use the word diabolical in a comment
Mm.
on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And literally LinkedIn was like warned me not to.
Really?
Yeah, it was totally innocent with like another, I was like, that's diabolical, like evil, or that's an
Right.
evil thing to do. So silly. But LinkedIn won't let me do that. TikTok won't let me make certain words on my reels, things like that. So how
Mhm.
come we have these social media platforms that are already in place that restrict us from even using that type of those words, but we can have entire conversations about really sensitive subject matter, and it brings up other questions too about like what types of things are like lawyers, clients talking to ChatGPT about,
Oh, that's true.
like
Absolutely.
I don't know, but I know like it raises a question in my head of like I don't know what they're talking about, and I don't know how that could be negative, but I know it could be. And so we just thought we need to keep our eyes open a little bit and just be leery of it in
Right.
general, you know?
No, I agree. I do. I agree. So we were talking. So like before we started the podcast, we were talking. Great conversation. And look, we probably should have started the podcast and then had some of that conversation.
Sorry.
To try more cold. No, trust me, I do this with every guest. I'm like, oh my God, we had such a great conversation, but it was just so off the cuff. But let's talk about content because I know I have talked to now, so I'm a fractional CFO. I work with law firms from a financial standpoint, and I stay in my lane when it comes to marketing, but I will at times suggest to clients, I'll either say, hey, how's your lead pipeline going? Or, hey, I see, you just added 5,000 ad spend. How's that going? Because eventually it hits the financials. I see the expense going out and I'm hoping that I'm going to see new revenue coming in. But when it comes to like the nitty gritty details, like that, I'm hands off. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody like, yeah, that copy sucks or, oh my God, that's great. But let's talk about, well, we were talking earlier, we were talking about, websites and, having current content, like new content.
Yeah.
Well, and those really would be two different things, like having things that are current so that they're accurate for today, but
Yes.
then having new stuff. So what are things, I think I could probably ask two different ways or two different questions would be like, how does an attorney even come up with what topics or what blog posts they should be adding to their website? And then how do they make that happen? So it's kind of a two-part question. Wherever you want to start with that.
I love this. This is such a good question. Because we're focusing more on strategy here, which is the very first, it's the most important part of it, because we don't just want to write something for the sake of writing it. There should be a purpose behind whatever it is that we're writing. So when we're trying to come up with different blog posts and stuff, we want to, or even just supporting content, because it doesn't have to be blog posts. It can be infographics, it can be videos, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when we're trying to come up with ideas for that, the first thing is always to just think about, like, what are our goals? Like, what do we want to do? If you are, like we were talking earlier about different lawyers' practice areas and different what they are targeting. So if you don't want to do a bunch of AI liability or school bullying pages, or even if you don't want like workers' comp, that's very common. In personal injury lawyers, a lot of them take on workers' comp, but a lot of them don't. And so if you don't want workers' comp, but your agency or your writer says we should do workers' comp, it's like, no, we shouldn't, because we don't want to do that. We don't want workers'
Yeah.
comp cases. So we really need to be thinking about what pages we're trying to support. Like, what's the purpose of this page? And then go from there. And then once you know what you want to do with the page, it should be really easy to come up with ideas. I mean, it's easy for me because I write legal content for a living. So you could just hire me to do it, and I'll give you a whole bunch of ideas.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would say be cautious about asking ChatGPT for ideas in this case, because you're going to get the same answers as everyone else. But then and another way that you can source ideas is by looking at your competitors. And that is what we do. I mean, that is what everybody in legal marketing does, whether they're saying it to you or not. They're studying your competitors, and then they are creating content that your competitors are creating. I like to throw a little bit of extra in there. Like, yes, we need to do that, because a lot of the times, like, law firm websites need to have certain information there. But when we have the leeway to get a little bit more creative, we need to do other things. We don't just want to look like we're copying another website. It's just like any
Right.
other social platform. It's just with a website. It's just a little bit different. That's all. So those are ways you can get ideas. And then you said how to go about implementing them.
Yeah, how to actually do it. Yeah.
So you can hire somebody to write them, obviously, like me. You can take your hand at it yourself. You can try to have ChatGPT write the page for you. But again, unless you are really unless you use ChatGPT to write legal content every day, you shouldn't do it, because you won't know what is like repetitive, like
Exactly.
and things like
Right.
that. So you could do that. You could try to do it yourself. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, because those types of pages have more personality. If you are not a writer and you're writing something, and you're a lawyer, you're going to connect with your readers a little bit more, I think. But if you're just writing what to do after a car accident blog, don't do that. Like, don't waste your time. You're like, you literally live and die by billable hours, right? Like, don't waste your time writing a blog like that. Put that energy into something more personal.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So those are a couple of different ways that you can go about it. And then as far as frequency, I would say you should be updating, you should be publishing something new. Like, it depends on your goals, obviously, but at a minimum, once a month. Like that, and that's like bare minimum for, like, if you have very little budget and all you can afford is one page, do that one page.
Right. Right.
And I can give you a good example too, even just with my own website. So what I did was I took my website and I built a section in it that is like a lawyer's website. So, and then I went after those same types of target keywords, just not with any law firms in my area.
Right.
So we weren't competing. And so it was great. I was able to start it from scratch and publish content, and really quickly it started to take off, and I was getting page 1 rankings, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm ranking for like car accident lawyer terms, right? And so then got busy, as we do when we are running our own businesses and we don't prioritize ourselves. And now I don't have anything on page 1 because I just haven't been focused on updating my website. So it happens to the best of us,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, secretly, I have my podcast to try to force me into once a week. And then I use my podcast, that becomes my blog post, because then I have something new on my website. And then I try to post things about it on YouTube and LinkedIn, and forcing me because now I have something to write about. Whatever the podcast episode is, these days I probably run 50-50 with guests or just by myself. And in the beginning, like the first 80 episodes, it was just me. I had like one guest the entire time. I was terrified to have guests. I was terrified. And so it took my business coach saying, I'll be your first guest. And she was amazing. And she has a podcast. So I'm like, so she knew what she was doing. And I'm like, oh, we get done. And I'm like, well, that was amazing.
I could do this too. But yeah, if they're just starting to but I wouldn't recommend only doing one page a month either. Be as aggressive as you can be, but
Right.
don't be aggressive for no reason, so you don't want to just like publish a bunch of blogs. Maybe so I'm sorry, I'm getting excited. And I'm just like want to gather my thoughts. Okay. So maybe lawyers don't really understand exactly like how to get started with this unless they're working with an agency. So you need to have like your practice area pages first. So you want to have, let's say we're personal injury lawyers. I assume that's the bulk of your audience, or maybe criminal defense lawyers. So you have to have like your personal injury lawyer pages, your car accident pages. You need to have like primary pillar pages. And then once your primary pillar pages are good and they're published, then you need to start publishing supporting content underneath that. And everything you write should be like pushing up everything else. So you don't need your blog posts to rank. You don't need your blog posts to do anything other than support your primary pages, which will bring in clients. And then also your blog posts will help you establish your authority and be seen as an expert in your field, because you can't call yourself an expert unless you're a certified expert.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
start it. So don't just start writing blog posts. You're wasting your time, like for sure, and energy. Have a purpose.
Really. Yeah, I agree. I mean, so it's funny you said about the pillar stuff. Not really funny, but coincidentally, I struggled for the longest time. And so the whole concept when I discovered, pillar content, and I'm like, oh, duh, because you have to have the columns that support the firm. And so now I'm like, it's like hit me with a ton of bricks, right? And I've changed my pillar topics slightly. I've just refined them over time. But, I have 7 right now. And so that becomes, it actually makes it easier. Not only do I have pillar topics, so I have a better grasp of what is the next thing to talk about because I have them on a rotating basis. But I also created, my ideal client avatar. And so I named him after Matthew McConaughey's character in A Time to Kill. So Jake Brigance is my guy. And it's not any real reason why he's a guy versus a girl, but just it was more about his character and about how it was all about the client and doing the right thing and the best for the community and stuff like that, and small town feel, family and all that. And so when I go to write something, I'm thinking I'm having a conversation with Jake and what would I want to tell him? And so it makes it so much easier for me, because I'm horrible at a blank piece of paper, but you tell me I need you to write about this. And I'm like, oh, I'm off to the races. I can do that.
Right. So, right. Or just start at the treatment and then let it all fan out from there,
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's so obvious once you say it or once you get a visual of it, you're like, yes, that makes sense. But until somebody says that to you, you might just be like, all right, I know I need to have a website and I know I need to have content. So here we go.
No, absolutely.
Oh,
so let's shift gears a little bit out of website into social media. So do you write social media content for clients or do you stick more to the website stuff?
So I do write social media for clients, but I can't share any of them because they're all under, with social media content. When someone else writes for you, you're under an NDA.
And I'm not asking for names. I'm just curious, like from a service standpoint, like what they can hire you to do.
Normally I bring that up because normally whenever this gets brought up, it's during interviews, right? Where they want to see.
Oh yeah.
So just went right into it.
Portfolio.
But
definitely. Yeah. I'm not looking for inside secrets, but I just curiosity of how you could work with people, because Because I can imagine situations where people are like, "Hey, I see these other attorneys on LinkedIn. I've been a lurker for years. I've had my account." And I admit, I got a LinkedIn account like when it came. I think it was released in maybe like 2003, 2002, somewhere early 2000s.
Yeah.
Had an account, and I was starting to move towards being. I started my firm in 2005 and quickly gave up on it. I was like,
Right.
"No," and I
There
wasn't
wasn't
on any other
anything
social
there.
media for a while. Yeah, exactly. There was nothing there, nobody was on it, but yet, if I look at my account, it tells me how long ago I opened it and did not post, and then it took only in the last maybe 3 or 4 years have I actually been active on LinkedIn. But if somebody says, "Hey, I see this attorney," and they're saying, they don't really spend too much time updating their website, but they're doing a lot on LinkedIn. And, so I was just thinking from that standpoint,
Yeah.
like, can you help clients start getting their role going, with their feed of different posts? And so
Yeah.
I'm excited that you do it because I do think people need help. I know I struggled horribly when I first started posting on LinkedIn actively. And so if you go back to even like 4 years ago, it's dreadful some of the stuff I was posting. Not
Everyone.
like it was horrible, offensive, but just horrible.
Everyone is when they first start posting, though. That's the thing. And it's like, yes, I can. And yes, if you don't have the time to
Okay.
do social media, you absolutely should get someone like me, but not
Right.
like me. So like, yes, I can do social media, but it's not my specialty for
Okay.
lawyers. So
Okay.
I can refer someone. Oh gosh, what's his last name? When like people by their profile picture. So I know I'm just having a hard time with his last name. His name is
That's
Jake.
okay.
Face, you'll know
Okay.
him. He does. Everyone will know him, I assume, because we're all in here together. Jake,
Right.
he's who you want for social media. But I
Okay.
do it. I do it. But if you don't have the time and you want to hire someone, you want to hire Jake, or reach out to him and find someone through him. But you definitely have to be doing it. And I did find a lot of success on LinkedIn. I personally, we all have our own like niches, right? So like
Yeah.
I write lawyers but we're still in different spaces. Like the lawyers, their audience is different than mine. Um
Right.
and so when I'm writing my own, social content, it's a lot different than a lawyer who is speaking to other lawyers about things that go on in the industry. But that's where I would
Yeah.
start, is you just really need to like treat it like Facebook. And honestly,
Okay.
I would even start moving away from LinkedIn. I've been moving away from LinkedIn over the last few months, because it's just like not a super fun place, and it's
Yeah.
not anymore. It can be. It's just it's there's something about LinkedIn that's very pretentious. I feel like it's like
Yeah.
hoity-toity, and you can't
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
worry more about what you're posting because it's professional. Like,
Oh, I agree with that because I went from one extreme to the other. About 10 years ago, I was trying to be on every single social media. I had a profile on Reddit, TikTok, like
yep,
like any,
all
Instagram,
of them.
Facebook, all of it. It was killing me because I'm like, I can't keep up with all this stuff. And so, got to a point where I'm just like, I need to reassess. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna like delete accounts, but I'll just not actively post anymore. But lately, so I personally have not really been on Facebook for like 2 years. But this year, I'm the PTA person in charge of communications. So I inherited our Facebook page. And so now I have to I'm like, "Oh, I gotta log into Facebook now." But I'll log in and it'll say, "Hey, your business page just had, 5 more views this week." And I'm like, "Who? Like, I'm not actively posting. Who is looking for this?" So it's
I'm
kind of
telling you,
weird.
every other
No.
platform is
Yeah.
better for reach these days. I don't know what's going on with LinkedIn. I really, and like I have a following. I mean, I have an okay following. I have 13,000
Yeah.
followers almost, which isn't anything fantastic, but it's not nothing.
Yeah.
And I'll post something super helpful and it'll
Yeah.
get like 20 views. I don't
Oh,
know.
and I have the same thing. I'll have something that I think's an okay post and it does amazing. And then I'll really put effort into something that I'm like, I don't really think I nailed what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I go through and I'm just like, so I get
You
frustrated a
have
little
to
bit with
strike
LinkedIn.
One of
And
the thing
yeah,
about social media is, like, you have to really strike a balance, like, you have to provide this we have to do these helpful posts. We have to post things that are going to actually help people, but you also have to, like, try to appease the masses, unfortunately, and so you do have to create content that gets views, but you don't have to overthink it to create that stuff either. We all like the most terrible, like not terrible in terms of like what it is. It's just I'm talking about quality, you know? It could be like literally a picture. So like I do POV hiking. So for
yeah,
example, you could see like a POV of like staring down into a coffee cup and that video will get 5 million views. It's like, you know,
you're like, seriously? I
right.
know.
What you can do. So that's why I would really like to see more lawyers on Lawyer Talk over on TikTok. It's so fun over there. They're relevant. They don't take themselves super seriously, but you can still build like a really great like referral network over there. And you can chit chat in the comments and like in the DMs so much more easily. And you don't have to like on LinkedIn, you have to worry about being perceived as professional, you know?
Yeah, I
You
agree.
be
I do.
yourself
There's
everywhere
times
else.
where there's times where I typed a comment and I'm like, I don't know that that's going to be well received. Delete, 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 like delete the whole
Right.
thing. So yeah, no, I fear, I have the same concerns. So
Right.
no,
Last year, I
absolutely.
had to tone back my posts on LinkedIn in general because um, agencies I worked for or worked with, because I didn't work for them, I worked with them. Agencies I worked
Yeah.
with were threatened by my success. I would post like often about how much money I made and like did not like that at all. Like, and they started to really hurt my career because I
Yeah.
worked exclusively with agencies. And so if agencies want me posting, then I guess I can't post. No, we're just
Yeah.
going to pivot and work directly with lawyers instead. But it is something that lawyers should also keep in mind is like, who's going to be viewing this content, you know? And I think the majority of the people that are like going to hire you or refer you, you can connect with them so much more on other platforms these days.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. So I'm to a point where I'm probably at a crossroads of rethinking my social media presence again and
Get on
figuring out where,
Facebook.
because I know like yeah, well, I've been thinking, I'm toying with the idea. I think I need to go revisit, posting on Facebook again. I mean, I tried Blue Sky. That seemed to be hot for a hot minute, over the summer, be in the spring or something. And I had so many DMs with, "Hey, you look so pretty today," and I'm like, delete.
It's almost like "Hello, dear" in
There's-
like every
Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh my god." Or where are you located? I'm like,
dude,
creepy vibes, dude.
like ASL from AIM back in the day. But I know like
Oh,
building referral partners is super like I know up until one of my clients started working with me, their entire business was built on referrals only. And so they were very worried about posting on LinkedIn and how to do it.
oh yeah.
Really like don't worry about LinkedIn, like keep your LinkedIn, I guess. And like I get a lot of my work from LinkedIn, so I don't want to say don't do it, but
Right.
especially if you're a lawyer who is like interested in monetization, like a lot of lawyers are really focused on like building their followings and like, but you can't monetize on um
Right.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, you're restricted. Because I'm actually finding, so most of my content for like the last 2 years has been LinkedIn and YouTube. And lately, YouTube is filling my funnel with leads.
That's
And it's
me.
because and it's like, oh my God, why didn't I do this, 10 years ago? But I finally started getting it that YouTube is to search for answers. And so when I started creating videos that were answering questions,
Yes.
like I have a relationship with my case. And I'm a my case consultant and I do some speaking for my case in 8 a.m. And they gave me access to a demo file for my case. And I'm like, we're going to talk about my case. So I started doing all these videos about how my case actually works. And then all of a sudden, I like almost all my leads lately. I want to say all of them. I'd say probably like 65% of my leads for the last, like since the summer have
That's
been,
amazing.
hey, I use my case and I ran into this problem. I found you on YouTube because I asked the question and it took me to your videos.
And they're all
Simple.
search engines.
Yes. Yes. So it's and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm
Wait,
so
were you
excited."
making are you making shorts or real or like
I do
long?
both.
You do both.
I do a long form and then I'll do some shorts out of that. So, so yes, I'll do, so like my case has the case management side and then they have an accounting side. And so I've really only focused, being, a finance person, I've tried to focus on the accounting side. And so I'll just do one video with, today we're on the dashboard. These are the things that you can do on the dashboard. You can customize this. You can't do that. It shows you this. It doesn't show you that. That's how you interpret this number. And then that's one video. And it's maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Which I'm like, I can't believe people sit and listen to me talk about this for that long, but I think it's more about the question. Like they get to the question and they're like, oh, got it. She just answered my question. And but then I'll
Genius.
try to do some shorts out of that. And then I have a series of shorts that I talk because one thing that's really, really bothered me for the longest time is fraud and embezzlement.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of law firms are like, it won't happen to me. And yet I have found a ton of cases. Every video I've done, I've been doing this. I think I started it maybe in like May, June. Every week, I've had a short that I do about a legit, like real, like I'm getting my cases from, I'm getting the situations from actual cases.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'll go through like the DOJ press releases and I just pick through the law firm ones. And so I think I only had maybe 2
Genius.
videos that were not law firms. The rest have all been, this paralegal, this law partner, this
Right.
associate.
This is where a lot of people mess up though, is like you have this incredible like idea, right? You could
Yeah.
totally just be without even like posting just about the idea and like following through with that, you could be growing your following too by talking about what like how you came up with this. So like
No,
there's
yeah, I didn't even
content
think about
ideas.
that.
Yeah, see, there's content ideas everywhere. If you just like
Right,
just
right.
everything that comes into your head, firstly, make everything content, right? Like everything
Yeah.
involving work or legal, if it pops into your head, it's content. Get it
Yeah.
written down somewhere and figure out how to make whatever type of content you want. You can do all sorts of, we can do blogs, we can do long form, short form, all sorts of
Right.
stuff. I love that your YouTube is taking off though. It's so important to remember
Yeah.
that every social media platform is its own mini search engine. And
Yes.
so you really have to optimize everything for the search engine. It's unfortunate, but you do. But when you're an expert in what you do, it's easy. You just are filling out all the necessary, you know, areas that
Yeah.
need to be filled out, and it's not
Yeah.
something that you have to ask ChatGPT to do because
Right.
second nature.
Oh, yeah. So, and I've got a whole little format where, I talk about like what happened. It's always the person, not always the law firm they work for, because I don't want to be too,
Right.
but everything I always link to the, to some type of a, either the court document or some type of an official press release, just to validate that what I'm talking about
That's
is legit. But yeah, I talk about what happened and then what were the red flags? How can you prevent this? So I've got a whole little like structure to it. Because yeah, I don't want to see people getting ripped off. And
right.
I've seen it. I actually had a client, it wasn't a law firm before. So I started my career in Big Four accounting and I used to audit banks primarily. I audited different companies, but primarily banks. And we had and this was like year 2 that I was there, so I still had no clue what I was doing. But we had a guy at this bank who realized that he reconciled the ATM machine, and this is back, this would have been in like the late 90s where you still had to have the envelope to put a deposit into the
Yes.
ATM. So he would go, like after work, he would, as he's driving out of the parking lot, he'd pull up to the ATM and he'd put an empty envelope, but he would type in $500. And it would come through because now the computer is like $500 added to his account. But when he got when he got the envelope, then the next day he has to go. He's the one that's pulling all the envelopes out. And he's like, oh, looks like that's missing. And he would fudge the record to make sure that it was okay. And it wasn't okay. And so what happened, I don't know how long he'd been doing this, but we're in for the audit. We come in, my manager comes in and she's like, hey, why like, she just started looking at the one bank reconciliation. It had to do with ATM. And she's like, this just doesn't look right. She's like, I can't really put my finger on it. Something just doesn't look right. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure there's no problems, but something just doesn't look right. And can we go talk to, like, look who did this reconciliation? We can go talk to them. And so she goes off and she's talking and he freaks out. Like, she comes back in and she's like, something's wrong. She's like, I didn't think something was wrong. Something's definitely wrong. So it now is lunchtime. She's going to talk to the, like, the executives of the bank. And she's like, I really, like, completely cursory information. I don't know much. Something's not right. Something suspicious. He was kind of being really weird, getting like all twitchy and sweaty and all that. And yeah, so they dig into it. So during lunch, everybody stops and they let him go to lunch. Well, he's planning on not coming back. It was a whole crazy,
Oh my
they had
gosh.
to send cops to his house. He totally got arrested. And I want to say maybe, like, in the end, it might have been like $35,000, which is a lot, but he had just realized what he could do because he had control. And it's all about the people. Like, I don't personally, like, I didn't know him. I never talked to him. I'm sure he never really said, what can I do? I'm going to be evil, Dr. Evil. And, what can I do to rip off the bank? It was
Right.
probably like, oh, I just discovered that somebody put an empty envelope in here and it posted to their account. Can I do this for my account? Because it'd be great to have another $500. I'm sure it just started off that way. And I think that's how most of it starts. And then it snowballs because now you panic and you're like, oh my God, I got to keep up the whole charade.
Right.
So
You
that
hear about
nobody
that
catches
happening
on.
with like politicians or
Right.
like people who, like you were
Yeah.
saying, fraud and like embezzlement. Like, yeah, it happens a lot. You hear about it in the news, and it's like this little like old lady who just was struggling financially,
Yeah.
and during COVID, probably is when it started, and then just
Yep.
and then, but at that point, I mean, at what point do we say, you know,
Right.
you know,
But it was just
especially
something
as a
that
lawyer, when you
no,
know
totally.
when you
Yeah.
know how bad you can get in trouble for that, and just honestly, it's not even just about like getting in trouble. It's just like be a good person.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it is. It is. It's be a good person. And I think what really struck me is I've had clients over the years that are like, can you just pay my bills for me? I'll just add you as a signer on my account. You can just sign the checks. And I'm like, no, I do not want to be on your account.
No.
And they're like, well, I trust you. And I'm like, no. I don't want there to be the possibility that I could be accused of doing
Right.
anything.
Right.
So,
Like
no,
like don't trust me.
I'm not
They
going to do
don't
it. No,
trust whoever
don't.
you were trusting with that.
It's I'm the one reconciling your bank accounts. I'm doing your bookkeeping. Like, you don't want me to be in part of that. And
No.
so it's just education about how trust too much. So I think my sign off is usually something like trust but verify.
I
And
love it.
so, but it was just something that I came up with that I'm like, this would be great content for YouTube.
Yes. And that's
To
how it
just
comes up.
educate people.
It
Yeah.
just popped
Yeah.
off the top of your head, right? And you were just like, this would be
Yeah.
great. And then look at what it has done. You know?
Yeah. So
So I'm definitely all about that. I do the same thing. I'm that same type of person where like I just have this
yeah,
great idea.
I know,
Look
run
for
with it. I'm like, oh, no, that's awesome. Well, Diana, I've had you a lot today, and I have really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like we could just talk the whole afternoon.
because
I'm sure we've got work to do. I know, but we're going to do this again for sure because I've had
yes,
so much fun. I'm sure we have
I
more
want
to
to
talk
connect
about.
with you everywhere.
Awesome. Awesome. So how can people get in touch with you? Like, what are the best ways? And we'll make sure that we include links in the show notes so that people don't have to write this down. They can just click in the notes and click the hyperlink. But what are
Awesome.
the best ways for people to find you?
Yeah, so even though I did recommend like staying like focusing on platforms other than LinkedIn, obviously like I'm still on LinkedIn. That's still the best way to hire me if you want to work together. Or even if I'm happy to answer just questions too. Like if you guys just have questions about content and like you don't know, like I'm happy to just answer some questions through LinkedIn. So you can send me a message on LinkedIn. You could email me, Dianna at acadiacontentsolutions.com, or you could visit my website at acadiacontentsolutions.com.
Awesome. I love all of it. I love what you do for the industry. And while we don't have any clients in common right now, I hope that we cross paths like in the work world. But I love, following you on YouTube or on LinkedIn
Thank you.
and, just the comments back and forth. I love your posts. And so I've just really been very excited for today's conversation. And I'm sure everybody listening is like, oh my God, I just took a whole page of notes.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been very awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, before you go, grab my new book, Plugging the Leaks 10 Ways Lawyers Waste Money and Simple Fixes. It's a quick read, plain English, packed with checklists, templates, the 7 to 60-day collections escalator, and the Core 4 dashboard. So you can keep more of every dollar you earn. Now, you can order the paperback or Kindle on Amazon, or you can download it for free, the PDF format, using the link in the show notes below. Remember that profit is something you intentionally plan for in the beginning. It's not a potential bonus at the end of the year. Thanks for listening.